It's now 7:04. I hereby call the October 8th meeting of the Frostburg Planning Commission to order. We'll start our meeting with a roll call of the members present.
Mr. Russo?
Chad Hall.
Conrad Best, Chairman.
Ray Race.
We have a quorum. As we begin, I would ask that anyone presenting business before the commission or individuals who want to comment on business before the commission or other concerns, please come to the podium at the appropriate time. State your name and address for the record. Each meeting is recorded, so please speak loudly and clearly. First item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the September 25th meeting, September 2025 meeting.
Under the project presentations, item A,
Yeah.
I don't see anything that address the concerns that were raised by Karen and seconded by Jeff about having a second means of access.
Okay, I'll add that in.
And also the concerns that Karen had about the promises that were made when the planned neighborhood development was created, as far as like community center and all that. No updates with the timelines.
Chair would entertain a motion for approval of the minutes subject to the corrections that have been made.
I make a motion to approve.
Second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Abstentions? Motion passed. Okay. You're here for a project, right?
Yes.
So I see no citizens there, so we will go right to your presentation.
Awesome.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is William Spencer. I'm actually the founder of Sirius Agricultural Development. What we are presenting tonight is a project we like to do on 120 Bowery Street. We own both 118, which is our primary residence, and 120, which is currently an empty lot. What I'm about to present to you is some of the ideas that we have with using shipping containers as a building use. If you want to go to the next slide. So this is kind of our executive summary that we went over. Containers are durable and reusable. They're structural units as a whole. They are cost saving compared to conventional construction. There's a faster dry-in time, and there are multiple successful case studies that we're going to go over in my presentation. And then I'm just requesting an amended zoning, building code, or just permission to kind of proceed with doing something like this. Next slide. So what is a shipping container? ISO shipping containers come in two shapes, 20 or 40 feet. They are reused as building blocks. There's three different methods. There's single, which is just a standalone. There's stacked, which is what we're going to kind of present today. And then there's a hybrid, which is just a stacked, but not in a Lego style, more so a convoluted way of doing it. They must meet the same structural, fire, insulation, and egress codes. The three-story example that I'm about to go over is kind of our rough of what we're looking at. It's 4 containers wide by 2 containers deep by 3 stories, which is our limit for the lot as well as for the height. It also allows for all the utility egresses as well as parking on the back of it. It's 24 by 40 containers, which gives us 7,680 square feet. We are zoned R1, so it's a residential and commercial. It's going to be a mixed use. So what you're looking at is the rough of our first floor. Essentially in the front, what we're thinking about doing is a small restaurant. The seating would be about 24 to 48 allowed around the tables, and then a bar area. We would have 3 bathrooms, 2 regular bathrooms, and then an ADA compliant bathroom. What you're looking at the back is our ADA compliant apartment. And then we have what is attached to the restaurant, which would be the kitchen. And then this is one slide that I forgot, LGM. You're going to see this initials a lot. It stands for Leafy Green Machine. One of the things that we're trying to do is utilize our space and do vertical hydroponics in the space. So we're talking about multi-amenity living, where we're able to not only produce the food, but then serve the food right out in front. These 2 Leafy Green machines would be produced by Freight Farms. They're a company out of Boston, Massachusetts. So that's just a rough of the first floor. We have sent this to Standard Engineering. They have started to take a look at it, and we do have some bids back for costs in terms of them doing either the total engineering structurally, as well as just the foundation engineering. So this is the second floor. Again, we're showing at the front 2 2-bedroom apartments, both of them with kitchen units, small living area in the front, and then the 2 bedrooms are here along with the bathroom in the back, and then we're talking about 4 Leafy Green machines. So the amount of space overall that we're potentially able to grow food in is somewhere roughly around 2,500 square feet. This is our third space. We haven't really developed this one, so it's kind of an open concept right now. We did put 3 utility bathrooms upstairs, and then 2 Leafy Green machines, so egress would be through the front 2 containers, and then this entire space would just be kind of wide open to allow for events, community gatherings, and people just to utilize the space to look out over Frostburg. There's not a lot of really tall buildings. We actually are on top of the hill. We're at the crest of Bowery Street, so this gives a great vantage point of what Frostburg looks like overall. This is just an elevation standard from the side. The stairs that you're looking at would basically be to the back of the lot. There's an alley there, and then the front would be directly on Bowery Street. And then this is just a front-facing elevation to kind of give you a perspective of what you would see from Bowery Street if you were driving by. So this is the biggest reason why we kind of started working this idea, is because the cost comparisons. Conventional construction, we're talking 200 to 300 square feet, which equals 1.54 million or 2.3 million. Container construction knocks that down drastically, so we're talking 120 to 180 square feet. So you're talking 921,000 to 1.38 million. So cost savings of $600 to $920,000. This would allow us to actually work this idea faster. That's the biggest thing.
Sorry, what did you say?
It would allow us to actually construct it faster because our cost is lower. Yeah, sorry. Timeline comparison, you're talking conventional 8 to 12 weeks to dry in and 6 to 10 months total. Containers, 2 to 8 weeks to dry in, 3 to 5 months total. A container is dried in when it shows up, so we actually undry it in by adding windows and doors and whatnot. So that 2 to 8 weeks is really just dependent upon what we end up utilizing that container for. Sustainability, this is a big driver in what we're trying to do. Reuse reduces raw material demand, diverts steel from waste. We are a high import society, so there's a plethora of shipping containers all across the United States that we can immediately have access to. Embody carbon savings are possible, so we can actually go and get tax credits because we are reducing waste. And then modern insulation achieves energy efficiency. If you know anything about the houses in Frostburg, not a lot of them are insulated. I know my house alone, we actually spent more money on the insulation than we did anything else, but it was to achieve that high energy efficiency. Concerns and safeguards, structural safety, we're requiring an engineering stamps to do this. So like I said, we've already contacted Standard. We're looking at other engineering companies because I've used ChatGPT as well as Revit. I have a background in GIS. I used to be a surveyor for CEC out in Bridgeport. So I have fundamental understandings of a lot of this. Fire egress, we would still comply with IBC and fire codes. And appearances, obviously we would require finishes and landscaping. So this picture was actually, I did a job in McAllen. And this is a bar that's in McAllen. Again, you're talking about a dead space that was underutilized, and they took 2 shipping containers that are 20 foot, put them together, and it's a total outdoor space on the inside with 2 little sitting areas towards the front. What we're about to go over is just some of the case studies that I've done. I've done a lot of research on this. I've actually visited a lot of these sites as well too, just because shipping container construction, it's not something new, but it's a creative way to utilize space that it's not being utilized. So this is our first one. This is one that I looked at very closely. This is the Cargo District in Wilmington, North Carolina. This one spans multiple blocks in multiple areas. You'll see a map on the next slide. But what you're looking at on the left is actually a separation in this shopping facility where the community can come and kind of gather outside. There's a large 40-foot that spans across. And then these are all 20-footers that are connected together to provide small little shop areas for startups. The middle is actually their residential area. So you'll notice there are 2 20-footers stacked on top of each other. There's egresses on where you see the truck or the cars parked. They can actually enter in their building. And there's just a little kitchenette living room downstairs, and the upstairs is the main sleeping area. And then above is the front of this picture. You can actually see that it's a hybrid setting, so they've turned them on their ends in order to give them a little bit more height. They actually hid stairwells inside of them in order to give them egress to the top floor. So this is the map of the Cargo District. So as you can see, they've kind of taken over a large part of downtown Wilmington. And it's again because there's developers that own land that aren't able to move quickly on regular construction due to cost effectiveness. And this is a product that they've started turning out, and developers are starting to come to them and say, hey, look, if you can do this here, can you do something similar on my site as well too? So it's just a cool map to show you what sort of happens the development-wise of what they're able to create. And so if you've ever been to a Nationals game, oh man, just realized that the kerning on that coupling out. But if you've ever been to a Nationals game, this is directly outside of Nats Park. This is Half Street Fairgrounds. This is, again, another hybrid situation where it's an open layout on the inside. They have a bar that's on the far side. You can actually see people kind of lining up to it. And then they actually also have a stage that's out of reclamated steel and pallets that they put in the center of this. This is actually the entrance. So you would walk in here and there would be a big open space in the middle. And this gets packed every game. It's also available for rentals. People rent out the space for corporate gigs, and they use it in the summertime to throw different events if the Nats aren't doing an event or a game. So in closing, we're obviously saying containers are sustainable, affordable, and faster. I'm looking for you guys to kind of give us an okay to pilot this with obvious safeguards in place. Obviously, we'd still go through the regular permitting channels. We would still have an engineer actually look at our plans. And then we've already outreached to engineers. Like I said, the price point for us is just still a little bit too high, so we're also trying to find somebody that's a little bit more local. And then the last one that kind of got knocked off, we actually have a meeting with M&T October 14th to discuss this exact project. So we're trying to do our part in order to develop and grow Frostburg. We're just looking for you guys to say, this looks good, and give us a go-ahead. I do know that there is a prohibition currently on shipping containers in general in Frostburg, and that's something that we're kind of looking for an allowance, is to actually proceed with doing a project like this in order to utilize the empty lot so that I stop building stuff and Jamie emails me that I'm building stuff in the empty lot.
Okay.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So this would be an initial project development, wouldn't this have to go to the zoning commission before?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is, yeah, so what,
So he's looking for a favorable, a
Yes.
recommendation to the
Yes.
zoning
Let's
commission.
take a step back over
Yeah.
here
Yeah,
before
okay,
that, before we
yeah.
go there. Where's the prohibition for containers?
So-
As a residential structure? Because we have a prohibition for containers for temporary use, but not in the terms of a building material for residential structures. The way the state looks at it right now is, it's the same as if it's like a manufactured housing that's finished on site. I've done a lot of research on this because I was asked to do a project in Garrett County, and I backed away from it because the amount of work that they wanted to do to the containers themselves got into a little more of the structural end than I wanted to do. But I did some research, and essentially, the zoning was the issue. You knew it was more of making sure the design met current building code standards than it did with the zoning. Because we really don't preclude any type of housing or any type of structure being built. In other words, we don't come back and say you have to build in masonry unless it's in our historic district. Or we don't come back and say you have to use steel or you have to use wood. This is just a different type of building component that goes into the structure. Now, this is a mixed use, so as definition of mixed use multi-story, it requires a Maryland architect seal under the state of Maryland. And you also need to have an engineer seal for the foundations and for the openings and cuts in the containers. So like I said, I've done a lot of research
Yeah,
on this.
okay.
So when I
Yes.
saw this on here,
Yeah.
when I saw this on here, it's like, I don't really think we issue a special exception for a temporary, because this isn't a temporary house. These are built in place, and the ones that are done in temporary are like the trailers that are used for construction sites. That's temporary housing. They have an undercarriage. They are specifically made to be moved, and the openings and the holes cut into those structures allow them to be moved after the fact. When these are modified, you're not going to pick these up and move them unless another engineer comes in and looks at it and makes sure that it's stable enough to move. There's that many holes and openings are cut into these kind of structures. So it's actually a pretty neat engineering project when
It
you look
is.
at it that way.
I've had a lot of fun doing it. So, and the fact that you've done the research on it too, I'm like, okay, cool. Like this is,
Yeah.
again, we ended up here because of the prohibition. The wording was not in a manner that was what you just said. It was just a prohibition on shipping containers from what I read in the code.
Yeah, and that's
And
what I
it was
wanted to
also
see
on the
was-
web, the other thing too, is on the website, directly on the city page for some of the building code. It says shipping containers are prohibited for use. And I wish I had included that in the slide, but that was one of the things that kind of alarmed us, was because I was like, hold up, we can't use them at all?
I'm not aware of that in their building code or anything else like that. That's kind of struck me when you said that. Just didn't hit well.
The verbiage there said, under no circumstances are sea shipping containers allowed to be used for permanent storage. It doesn't say anything about for business or
Where is that at?
right there on the screen, that's
Section-
six,
yeah.
parts C.
And I'm kind of storing people, right? Or I'm storing a business. Like that was the thing too, because its verbiage is very like, kind of broad, yeah, and I'm like, I am storing
Yeah,
things,
but
So not frozen people.
Yeah.
right, not frozen people.
I think the intent behind the ordinance is you just can't drop a box in without having some type of work done to it. So that it's not just a metal box sitting in the middle of a residential area. When these are done, if they're done correctly, you don't recognize that they're metal boxes other than the fact that they're rectangular in shape.
Yes.
So, if anything, I don't see why we would have to have a favorable recommendation of Boza. Why do you even have to go and Boza it? Because this is more of a building material than it would be considered a use. When you look at a container, we assume that as a use, i.e. storage, as opposed to using the building container for construction material. That's just my thought. So like I said, I did a little research on this back about 6 months ago, and that was one of the things that I had talked actually with Garrett County about. So,
I mean, the way we saw, I mean, we just saw that it,
You see the word shipping container and it says, don't, you can't have it.
Right. And that's why they were like, come present here and look for a favorable recommendation.
yeah, so,
So then this would be a preliminary,
I guess this would just be, yeah, cause you don't have any actual, like, because you don't have like the stamped plan.
No.
No.
Yeah, so,
And we were outside because, like I said, we had already contacted Standard Engineering. I wasn't gonna move there until I knew that, okay, if we pay this money to get stamped plans, we're not gonna just get immediately knocked down because, oh, we have a shipping container prohibition here.
This is just my thought on it and my familiarity with the building codes and everything. There's nothing in that precludes that as use as a building material.
yeah.
Now, we could say, you can't just drop a box in, that's where it needs to have an architectural stamp, and you have the ability to comment on the architectural drawings. In addition, this needs a site plan, it's a mixed use
yeah.
in a resident, yeah. So there is some zoning stuff though. What zone are we in on this? Is it? Yep.
I think it's C1.
Okay, so
Or
we're
C1.
okay with the
Sorry,
mixed use
yeah.
with,
Yeah.
it's permitted by right then, as opposed to special exception, but it still needs a site plan.
Yeah, we need,
Yeah, it's C1.
Yeah, like I said, I halted everything because they said.
Oh,
come
yeah,
here for-
man,
I'm not gonna go spend money and then be like, no, okay.
If I was doing the
Trash.
search of the PDF and they typed in shipping containers and I read that, I'd be like, oh my, this don't make sense.
Right, so that's why we
But I
wanted to
think
come
you
here
have
and
to look at it in a different aspect.
present so that, yeah, we could have a clearer idea.
When you're done, like I said, if they're done right, they're not gonna look like a shipping container. They shouldn't.
No, they won't.
Okay. I mean, yeah, if that's how, the planning commission wants to interpret that, then we won't need to go to BOZA. At least for this, I mean, there may be something with the plans.
Yeah, no, now I can go back to the engineers and say, we're okay, go ahead and take my money and we'll go ahead and get you guys actual stamp plans and everything. And do an actual site plan and all the other stuff that we have to pay money for. And it's not just me and Revit.
So,
so we're looking for preliminary approval on this.
well, I mean, we don't actually have site.
We don't have a
No, we don't have a site plan, yeah.
No.
So this is just a point of discussion at this point.
Yeah,
And
so I
like
guess there
said,
is no motion or that needs to be approved then.
Yeah, I mean, I teach urban geography and, this is done all over the world.
Yeah,
I show my students examples from Cape Town.
yeah,
So like, I don't have a problem then if, like you said, if it's coming in, as like a building material as opposed to.
the whole building,
storage.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I just don't have a problem. I think it's kind of cool. I almost really like, are we ready for this in Frostburg?
That's the other question, I think we
You want the
are.
real answer to that?
But,
He's gonna find out.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I will find out for you guys and come back.
right, but it would, I think it goes well with, the city's, attempts to, be a sustainable community. It connects with things on college. I mean, it's something you would expect maybe to see in a college town. Like, I just feel like I don't see any problems. I don't know as much as you do about the engineering and the zoning regulations, but just on the basis of like,
Very similar to what was presented here a couple months ago too.
I see it no different than using SIPS panels. If you guys are familiar with that, that's a structural insulated panel. So it's basically 2 sheets of OSB and with foam sandwiched in between. Or using an ICF product. When ICF first came out, insulated construction forms, they're basically Legos that you fill with concrete.
Yeah,
And, they're all changes in building material. This is just an evolution in building materials.
it'd be
cool.
neat to see in Frostburg. But
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sweet.
So,
I'll take that as a favorable.
so Conrad, he needs to come back in front of us then with a site plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got mixed use, and it'll have to go through the approval. And of course, then
It's gonna have
you,
to show parking, it's gonna have to show landscape.
Yep.
thing, and
you're not required to show us the building under the review, because it's just site plan review. However, I'll tell you right now, we have a person on this board, she's gonna ask for it.
No, I'll get you. Don't worry. Yeah.
Karen's gonna wanna see them. So I would strongly advise you to have elevations of the buildings that you could present.
Yep, for sure. Awesome. Anything else? Cool.
Fine by me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Okay, discussion items. Chair or member of the commission, anybody have anything to discuss? Hearing none, we'll move on to administrative business and communications. Text amendment to the Frostburg zoning ordinance.
Yeah, so this one, I have this in the packet for you. As it stands, artisan and small-scale manufacturing, this use is listed as a special exception use in each of the commercial districts. And in looking at it, it lays out all of the requirements for something to be considered artisan and small-scale manufacturing. And so, you know, us as staff, we were looking at this and we're like, if this whole section is listed in the zoning ordinance, but yet if something meets all this, it's still, by the way the code's written, it would have to go in front of the Board of Zoning Appeals to still be approved. We are proposing moving that from a special exception to a permitted use, subject to it meeting everything that's already in section 8.2 of the zoning ordinance. And that would only be in the
In commercial.
commercial districts, where it's already listed as a special exception. In those same districts, it would just move up to a permitted use that, provided that it meets the criteria listed in section 8.2.
What was the rationale for making the special exception?
There's somebody that came to us recently. They have somebody who wants to do some small-scale agriculture that would fit based on all of this criteria. And we're looking at it and we're like, oh, well, they still have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, even though everything they're doing lines up with what's in section 8.2. So just logically, it seems like if we can look at this and see that it meets all of that, why can't it just be a permitted use and save the developer $250 and going through all the hassle of going through the Board of Zoning Appeals whenever it's already, you know, totally laid out what the criteria is to meet that artisan small-scale manufacturing.
But we're talking about making it principal permitted only in the commercial districts.
Yeah, only the commercial districts.
Wasn't this allowed by special exception in other districts too?
Not that I saw, no.
So I think the intent behind this was to allow the small scale manufacturing in residential districts, provided there was no impact. That's why you had the special exception. At least that was what I recall when we did it that way. So, you know, someone had a garage and they're, you know, say up in Crestview, say I had a garage in Crestview, right? And they wanted to make pottery there or something like that. They could do that provided, you know, they didn't have a loading dock or, you know, they weren't using that as the point of sale and that kind of stuff. That's why it was done as a special exception, more to alert neighbors that that was gonna go in there and give the neighbors a chance to say, you know, I think that's gonna create an issue for our neighborhood with traffic or whatever. as opposed to a commercial district where it's in the commercial district, these things already occur in the commercial districts at different scales.
Yeah, looking at it, it is not listed in any of the residential districts, even as a special exception. It's only listed under the commercial districts as special exception, and not a permitted use at all. So, I mean, it could even be, you know, a permitted use in the commercial districts and a special exception in the residential districts, or, you know, not all of the residential districts, maybe not R1, but,
Yeah, that's what I was kinda getting at, that makes more sense to me, cause we're talking about artisans and artisans workshop. Well, I hate to tell you, there is a lot of people who do this kinda stuff in their basement or in their garage right now in town.
yeah.
So, and they're not under any kind of zoning ordinance. Cause it's done right, you don't know they're doing it. Well, that's the whole thing, I mean, you live in a residential area, you expect to be able to go to sleep at night, cause someone's not running a table saw at 2 o'clock in the morning, right?
Makes sense. There's a C1, the commercial districts.
Yeah, so all the commercial districts, the, you know, C1 through C4, contain it as a special exception, and currently none of the residential districts list it at all. So, from what it sounds like, if we moved it from, in the commercial districts, from special exception to permitted, and then in, I don't know if you wanna do all of the residential districts, but at least some of them possibly moving that towards.
Well, it makes more sense actually to have it in the R1, cause that's the least dense, as opposed to having like in R2 where you have more apartment style. It just seems that would be kinda inconvenient to have someone have something like that, then you have an apartment above you. But you could make it a special exception in all districts, all residential districts, and they still have to approve to Board of Zoning Appeals that they're not making an impact.
Yeah.
And that might be their litmus test is, okay, you know, if all you're going to do in this is make butterflies, not a big deal. But, if you're making butterflies out of metal and you're gonna be using a torch, probably not the best thing to do in an apartment, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, that sounds logical to me, to do that, if that's how everybody feels.
You guys wanna wait and table this and when we get a few more members in here to have discussion? Are you guys okay with this?
And so the idea is that we're doing what you suggested for a commercial district, kind of cutting out an extra step,
Yeah,
but then we're adding.
Yeah, it makes sense, if we're gonna allow it in every commercial district, but yet that, the same stuff is still occurring in our residential districts and we don't police it now, why not make it legitimate for people who wanna come and do it right?
I kinda like the idea of, we just have a minimum quorum here tonight.
Yeah, it'd be good to have some other input. Alright, do we need to move this forward any, or?
I mean, unless you wanna do it separate, like, I don't know if you're okay with doing it just the commercial part of it now and then the residential part at like the
It
next
seems
meeting?
like an added expense to the city to do that, cause don't you have to advertise the change, go in front of the commissioner or the council meeting, or council?
I mean, we would, I mean, the added, I guess the added cost would be, I guess, the additional time for Michael Cohen to,
That's what I'm getting
to
at, and that's not,
review
yeah.
yeah. So that would be the only real added expense to the city. I don't know the timeline on the person that had come to us that's looking to do this. I'm not sure how fast.
We're looking at a difference of a month here. I don't think that's a big deal. If we can get it voted on next month.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to table this until next month. In the meantime, ask Jamie to float around the idea upstairs about making a special exception in the residential districts also. Because you may get some kickback from that. You'll be able to put your feelers out to cement to council members and that and see what they're thinking. They may be totally against it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of why I wanted to wait a little bit, because we wanted Adam here to, as our liaison there, to kind of chime in.
We have a motion to table, or I have a second. Moved and second, we table this till next meeting. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed indicate by saying nay. Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, staff reports.
Yeah, so all I have is just a real quick, comprehensive plan update. Just the last call that we had, with the consultant, they had given us a list, of some data gaps that they're looking for us to fill, or to look into and get back to them, stuff that, pertains to the city. Some of it might pertain to other organizations, but they'd asked us to just kind of look over that table and see what we can provide to them. Our next steering committee meeting is going to be on October 17th. It was going to be on the 3rd, but that got pushed back. And then I believe in November, I think we're going to go back to the original schedule of the first Friday of every month, as long as the steering committee's okay with that. And they're gonna, I guess at this next meeting, they're gonna go over the visioning statements that they had talked about at the last steering committee meeting. And then in November, they're looking to go over housing and the housing component of the comprehensive plan. But other than that, they had drafted some of the initial chapters of the comp plan that they're working on, and obviously working on some other ones, but I think they may have the drafts close to being finished. And then they had made edits to the current land use map, but that's about where we're at with that.
See, you got a sheet in here listing names of people. Is that
Oh, yeah, that, I forgot to mention that before the meeting. This is an updated contact sheet and, the new, rental housing ordinance, that needs to be, I guess, swapped out from your binders. Chad's is already to go since we just got him his, but, for everybody else, you can pull out the old one and replace with the new.
okay? Nothing else for tonight, guys?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Then move to adjourn. Adjourned.